What's up, everyone? The clip you are about to watch comes from our live streams, which happen on Thursdays at 6 p.m. So if you're interested in hanging out, having a beer, having a glass of milk, some tea, some coffee, whatever you like, and talking about all different things from looking at music videos to underrated bands to checking out new music and new bands together, be sure to tune in live on YouTube, 6 p.m. on Thursdays. I look forward to seeing you there. Enjoy this clip. So the question I often get when it comes to death metal, where would I start if I wanted to get into death metal? Of course, no one ever asked me that question ever, but if they did, I'm prepared. Here's the thing. If you're gonna get someone started off in death metal, you don't want to throw them like Cannibal Corpse right away. As much as the elite of the elite like to say, oh, Cannibal Corpse isn't even that heavy. Cannibal Corpse is pretty freaking heavy. It's best if we don't start off with that. This is where you should start. Because this is the basis of all extreme music. This is where you want to start someone off. Venom, man, they just had the formula to start everything off. Like from the very, very beginning, they had the formula to make everything sound brutal and fast. Like, listen to that. That's so fast, and that's 1982. 1981. When that comes out, especially with the satanic imagery and the speed of the guitars and the speed of the drumming, the intensity of it, and their stage performance, man, whew, baby, that stage performance. I remember even as a kid, like watching Headbangers Journey, getting into metal, and I watched that. Man, seeing the scenes of Venom up there, it was absolute insane, and I was like, dude, these guys are so scary. You know the typical sounds that everyone says when they're talking about death metal? I don't like the music that goes, and they're right, it does kind of sound like that sometimes, but it has none of that, and that's the key thing, because that's what turns most people off from extreme music. You got to start them off easy, but I really think this is where death metal truly started. This is the album where death metal truly started, 100%. It's not even close. And not enough people talk about this. I've heard like one or two bands in the scene talk about how they think that this album's the first death metal album, but other than that, like, not enough people talk about how influential this album. Well, they talk about how influential it is on the death metal scene, but they're not actually talking about it being death metal, which is understandable. I mean, Slayer's a thrash band. They're always going to be a thrash band. They're not a death metal band. So it's hard to square that circle when I say, like, this is a death metal album, but Slayer's not a death metal band. You know what I mean? I think the perfect example is this right here. That's not a thrash riff. That's a death metal riff. That's a death metal riff. It's so crazy, a death metal riff. This is death metal. Like, actually, maybe this whole song's a death metal song. Especially those drum fills that you hear in the background. That's pretty death metal. And other thrash bands weren't doing it at the time. Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, Violence, Creator. Maybe Creator was, and that's why they were a huge influence on the death metal scene. So Creator was doing a lot of those drum fills, especially on Pleasure to Kill. It was crazy what Dave Lombardo was doing. Like, let's listen to that again. Let's listen to this first riff off of Altar of Sacrifice here. Like, that's a death metal riff too. And the only reason people don't think of it as a death metal riff is because it's Slayer. Revocation covered this song. So let's listen to Revocation. And they do a great job showing that it's truly a death metal song. I mean, like, I could go on and on, like Epidemic. There's a specific part in here. Here. The opening riff of Necrophobic. It sounds just like Buried in the Backyard. Slayer was death metal before death metal was a thing. And so then the next thing someone's going to say is, well, the knowledgeable person is going to say, well, what about Possessed? My response to that is that Rain and Blood is more of a death metal album than Seven Churches. So why is this death metal? Necrophobic is not. So, not death metal. Death metal. The biggest argument I could hear would be the drums, the drumming in this case, and I don't think that's appropriate. I think what Dave Lombardo is doing here is closer to more of those syncopated, kind of intense death metal drum beats that we know than what. You have to forgive me. I forget his name to say here. Mike Suss. He was pretty sus with those drums. It's pretty sus that people think that that's death metal and Dave Lombardo isn't. Like that's crazy. Like the little drum fills he does in between. But Possessed was huge. Like I'm not gonna say Possessed wasn't huge in this. It's just they definitely were an inspiration, but it's not the first death metal album. It really isn't. It's way more of a thrash album. It's way more of a thrash album. I've listened to this front to back, and when I hear this, I think people think that it's a death metal album because the production is just so grimy. The vocals are a little bit more intense than what Tom Araya is delivering on Rain and Blood, and I really think that comes up in the mix so much that people confuse that with death metal because all the early death metal like Scream Bloody Gore was so grimy and the post production on it wasn't so good, and Rain and Blood was just so clean and beautiful. Like you can hear everything. It's so well produced. Rick Rubin did a great job on this.